I know you're not saying don't apologize for how the person feels, but don't apologize for something that you still feel a certain way about, because you can still be like, I'm sorry that this hurt you or I hurt you, with still caring about what it is that's going on. Because I feel like you do that, and I feel like you need to clarify that, because it sounds like if someone comes up to you and you're just like, this hurt my feelings, and you're like, well, I wanted to do this, which is not how you operate. But I get what you're saying is like, if it matters to you, don't apologize for the thing, and that can still matter to you. But how you affected somebody, you can still care about.
I'm glad you brought that up, because this actually came up in one of my YouTube videos where I was talking about a similar subject, and someone commented like, you just said don't apologize, but then you apologize. And there's a difference between sympathy and apology. And we use the word sorry both times. So it is good to sympathize with a person who's maybe in the wrong, but their feelings are hurt. So, oh, I'm sorry that hurt your feelings. That's not my intent. That's not an apology. That's not an admission of wrongdoing. I'm sympathizing. It's not even empathy, it's sympathy. And sympathy and empathy have two different places, and they are both important. But it's sympathy because I'm saying, I care that you feel bad. That's what sympathy is. I care that it's important to me that you feel bad, right? Empathy is relating to understand how that feels, which you might not be able to be empathetic in that situation because you may not understand how that feels because you're not that person. To you, it's still an issue of right or wrong, and you don't agree with necessarily where they're at. But the sympathy should always be there in that respect of, I care that you feel bad. And we say the word sorry in both cases. One sorry is a sympathetic sorry. The other sorry is, I did you wrong, and I'm deeply sorry that I did this. I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings. I shouldn't have done that. That's an apology. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because I think there's a big, because when I said that in my YouTube video, someone was like, oh, well, you just said, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. That you're not supposed to say sorry for something that you're not wrong in. And that's not the same thing. That's a sympathetic sorry. And there's just not another better word for it, unfortunately. You can't really say.
Yeah, but you needed to explain it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that.
It would have gotten misconstrued, and tons of guys out there would have been like, well, I'm not sorry. John told me not to apologize for something that I know I'm right about. And like, you can still, but I know you as a person can sympathize.
I mean, you could even say, I care that your feelings are hurt. It's meaningful to me. I don't want your feelings to be hurt. I care about that. If you don't want to use the word sorry in that case. But to me, I think no one thinks that because you say, I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings or that your feelings are hurt. No one says, oh, I'm right. You're wrong. You're admitting you're wrong. That doesn't mean an admission of guilt.
That's like an ego thing too. If you're like afraid to say a word or afraid they're gonna have a tit for tat, your ego.
Yeah, because I say it all the time. I say, oh, I'm sorry that hurt your feelings. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to come across that way. I'm sorry. Right. So it doesn't mean that I'm like, okay, I did everything wrong and you didn't do anything. If you do something wrong to me and it hurts your feelings, I should still care that your feelings are hurt. Because we're humans. I should care about you, right? And then the other piece of it in the same conversation is this. If a woman says to you, what's wrong? You're being a bitch. You fucked up. If she has to say to you, what's wrong? How does she know that something's wrong? Because you're pouting in some way. You're being a bitch. You're being affected. She knocked you off your game. That's why she's asking you. Where I'm saying with that, where I'm going with this, connecting the two, is that you've already started to sweep it under the rug because you've already now displayed, changed your emotional state, changed how you're showing up because you didn't resolve the issue. And so if she has to come to you and say what's wrong, instead of you going to her and telling her what needs to be resolved, you've abdicated leadership. You've allowed her to lead. Now she's got to fix the problem, right? Or you're being a pouty little boy, like little baby, right? And I say this with love to everyone who I'm saying this to because I do this.
I can tell the vibe too. Like you're not even necessarily pouty because you don't really pout. I can tell the energy.
But I've messed up there. When you're asking me what's wrong, I've messed up. Even if you've done something that's hurt me, I've messed up because I haven't addressed it properly. Because I must have closed down my heart a little bit. Otherwise, you wouldn't ask that question, right? I'm not saying that you have to be like, oh, nothing affects me. I'm just completely stoic and nothing.
Right.
You
but
can
you
still
have
be
to
hurt.
bring it up.
But you got to say, hey, we need to talk about something. Or, hey, there's something I want to talk to you about. Even if you say, not right now, but a little bit later, I want to talk to you about something. Now you're not being a butthurt little bitch, right? But it did dawn on me when I was having this conversation. I'm like, oh, that's so true. Like, when I was saying that, I'm like, God, John, you're so wise. I said that. No, but really, like, if a woman says to you, what's wrong? You are being a little bitch.
Well,
and that's your indicator.
Someone shouldn't have to say what's wrong. wrong for anybody,
Right.
man or woman, because then you're putting, like, I'm not saying that they shouldn't, like, they care about you. So that's why they're asking.
Right.
But I'm saying, like, because there's been plenty of times where you seem like something's wrong and you tell me no. And there have been times where you tell me no and there really is.
Right.
But I've gotten to a point where I'm like, I asked you and this is your time to like bring it to me if there is. And I'm not going to ask you like again, you know what I mean? Because then it does put the responsibility on the other person to keep asking you or to like beat it out of you when it's really, if you're the one that's affected in any way, it's your responsibility to bring that up and to address that. And like, I have to be better about that too, because you'll be like, what's wrong? You know,
like,
I
I'll
have
tell
to do
you on
the
the
same
third time.
thing.
Ask again.
It's like, you know, it shouldn't be that way.
No, I know.
But it is important to bring up that it is your responsibility to bring up those things if you're the one that has the problem, is to address it. And again, might make mistakes and you might close off your heart a little bit and someone might be like, what's wrong? But it is your responsibility.
And just as a side note, the words what's wrong should probably be removed from the vocabulary anyway, because it does come across slightly as an attack. Or it looks like something might be bothering you, right? That's more invitation versus what's wrong. What's wrong demands an answer. No, there's nothing wrong. And you're also a lot of times going to get nothing, because if they're not feeling like you are in a space where you're going to be, where it's safe.
Well, see, that's the hard part too. Because earlier when we talked about the thing at the last episode, you'd gotten upset because I'd brought in something up. So I genuinely was trying not to bring it up because you were upset that I brought it up before. And so it wasn't necessarily, I didn't want to tell you, but it was like, is this the wrong time or not? Because it was the wrong time then. So then I was like, I genuinely don't know if he wants me to actually tell him what's wrong right now or not. From own personal experience, like it can be hard to tell. And in that time I did tell you no, but then I was like, look, if he's gonna get upset again, he asked me what's wrong, so I need to tell him what's wrong. Even though I did at first was like nothing, or you know, like it's fine. It's normal to not know the situation, but at the same time it is kind of better to just suffer the consequences of whatever happens,
dealing with the
you
thing.
know. And like if you had gotten mad at me, this is not the time, then it's like, you know, I don't know. It would have been like, well, tell me when the correct time is, or I have a problem, but it's not like this is bothering me, so you let me know when it's the right time or something. You know, you have to figure out the way to deal with it.